Okay. So, well, let's start from the beginning. This is exactly part of what we do as project managers, right? Proactive communication and leadership skills when there's times of change. What do you do? So I am thanking President Jumo again and thanking you for your time here today. I am excited about what we're about to share in the next 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll leave time for questions. It's going to be really important for us to stay engaged, so there's going to be activities throughout this presentation that I'm going to ask you to participate, and I look forward to you participating with me. So, on we go. So the agenda today is tied around connecting, communicating, and collaborating. So my goal is to inspire you. We will learn about proactive communications and leadership. I will share with you some of my personal examples from my professional journey, and I'll give you practical tips and tools to help you communicate and lead. So let's connect. So I'm Ghanaian born. I am Canadian raised, and I currently reside in Silicon Valley. As President Jumo, I have over 20 plus years of experience navigating technology communications, marketing, project management for these brands, and you could call logos. In 2004, I wanted to differentiate myself as a marketer and get my PMP. Most people thought, why do you need a PMP? You're in marketing. Marketers don't need PMPs. What's the value? Well, I didn't listen to them. I was pretty driven, and I said, no, I'm going to get my PMP. Lo and behold, it took me over 10 years to achieve this journey of getting my PMP. Wow. Although I led with a growth mindset, I had many things that I was working on. So my first attempt to join the PMI Silicon Valley chapter was back in 2004 when I was joining Yahoo. And I began a very busy career as a marketer with doing various project management projects. We were at that point in time I would say at the top pinnacle of transforming the online world, digital media, and I had so many projects that I was working on, so I didn't have the time. I was busy. I was a creative producer, I was a marketing manager, I was a product marketing manager, I was a customer experience specialist for Yahoo, and it was an amazing through my Yahoo career, learning all these different things. But what was missing was I felt like I needed the discipline. So the project management discipline of initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing the work. I felt that I needed that to align with the projects I was working on, and honestly, to get the credibility of people in the industry. So in tech, it just moves really fast, and you have to keep on moving and changing and innovating. And so it was really important to also get that credibility part. So that was what I did. So I received my PMP finally after a career transition in 2014. And again, it wasn't an easy road for me. I had to find that time to study and learn the process of studying again. I've been out of school for many years, so it was a different type of mindset to get back into studying for the PMP. So that was my journey. So with my growth mindset, as part of my PMP commitment to continuously improve myself and to learn, it was important for me to now focus my time in giving back to the community, the PMP community, that is. And so I am pleased to be part of the Ghana chapter. I hope to get more involved and continue growing and learning from the great thought leaders in the chapter. So let me give you a little bit more background and a deeper dive into who I am too. So I have this growth mindset, and I was a former athlete, but in a sprinter. I went to college on a sprinting scholarship, a sprinting and throwing scholarship. And in 2012, before this PMP finally, I had this idea that I need to learn something different, something outside of my comfort zone, and push myself. So I committed to doing a triathlon. And I don't know if many people know what an Ironman is, but it's a triathlon. It's the Uber of all triathlons. And so I committed to learn how to swim first. Took me 8.5 months before my Ironman, and I'm proud to say that in 2012, I finished an Ironman. So that's a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and that's, I believe, it's from Accra to, I'm not even sure, 112 miles. And then I ran a full marathon, and that all has to happen in one day. So to give you that perspective of what kind of a mindset I have. So I finished the Ironman in 15 hours and 55 minutes. So that is me going into this. And I just want to set kind of that perspective of how I think and being proactive. So it was hard. It was very challenging, but as Pele said, success is no accident. It's hard, it's perseverance, it's learning, it's studying, it's sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing, learning, and what you are learning to do. So, and as well, I would say I get a lot of encouragement from my family and support to do all these different things. So my growth mindset is just there, and I put myself into my comfort zone. I push it all the way. So that's just me. So let's talk about what is this growth mindset. So it's when you commit to mastering skills, regardless of knowing passion and your purpose for doing great work, right? And so sometimes you use your creative and innovative ideas to solve these problems. And failure, as you go through this, is just a temporary setback. You're learning and you're growing from that. And so it's hard sometimes to keep up your confidence, but I think it's always important to push to the unfamiliar and keep on learning and keep on solving problems. So there was a study, the Harvard Review said that employers are looking for people with a growth mindset. They're trying to set that up in their companies, that culture. So they want to grow, they want this growth mindset. So this Harvard Business Review said that 47% of people in a company are likely to say that their colleagues are trustworthy. 34% likelier to feel a strong sense of ownership and commitment to the company. And 65% are likelier to say that the company supports risk-taking. And then as well, they were saying that to foster innovation, 49% are likelier to say that this is what they want from the company. So it's really important as we move on in our journey, not just, you might think, oh, that's just Silicon Valley, but I think as global brands are global, they're thinking about that in their companies. Who has a growth mindset? How are they going to advance them? Can they see beyond what we have today, the silo? Can they have that vision of growing and taking the company to the next level? So that was just that. We've come to an activity. So with growth mindset, as I said, we believe that intelligence, skills, and can be developed, right? And so, and they tend to enjoy challenges, and they want, we strive to continually to learn. So in this activity, can you please go into the chat box, and we're going to answer this question. Do you have a fixed or growth mindset? I'm just trying to get a sense of who do we have in the room. And then, so if you have your phone, your cell phone, click the 3 dots on your phone and enter chat to everyone so we can all see what you have in there. And if you're on a desktop or tablet, if you could go to the middle of your screen on the bottom, and there should be a chat box there. And if you enter that and share it with everyone so that we can see what do we have. I'm not seeing anything come through yet, Jamoke. If you see them, maybe you can share. It's important that growth. Okay, great. We have a couple of growth mindsets. There's people, growth mindset. That's wonderful. Growth mindset. Thank you. Growth. Do we have anybody that's fixed mindset? Yes. Great to see all the growth mindsets in the room. I am super excited. You're going to make my work so easy in this next 30 minutes so that so many people have a growth mindset. But I do want to point out, if the people with fixed mindsets, you know, when they view that, you know, the talent and quality they have or they don't have and they don't want to move forward, we can try and get them to the middle. So nobody's actually, anybody say that they have so far. So I'm excited that I have there's a couple of people have both, right? And it's totally understandable. Sometimes we are forced to have growth mindsets at work, and sometimes at home we might be very fixed. You know, some of the fixed mindsets of some traditional ways, but then when you get to work, you have to change, right? So thank you for sharing. I appreciate the interactivity of everyone and the group of growth mindsets in the room. That's exciting. All right. So it's hard to beat a person who never gives up, right? So other activity for you, because I love to engage, and if we were in the room, it would be a different situation. I think I would be asked to raise your hand, and I would see you. I see some people. I see Moses that he has his video on, but so then we would be able to do it. So let's do another activity just to warm you up. And, you know, it's really interesting. We are unprecedented world events. These unprecedented world events has forced everyone to change. So 2020 forever changed our lives. I would say that 2020 wins the Disruptor Award for the decade for a very long time, right? So if you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, you have been forced to make changes to your daily, professional, and personal life. And I'd be interested to know, you know, just generally, I've been watching all these world events happen, and even most recently, and the earthquake, probably it's the first experience for so many people to have an earthquake. I experienced the earthquake quite a bit in the Bay Area, so it's not too much for me, but I know that there's a lot of things that are happening, right, in the world. So our lives are forever changed. So I'd like us to go into the chat box again and enter some words that change is. What is change for you? So I did some initially, but if you can enter into the chat box, change is it uncomfortable? Is it a mindset? Is it scary? Is it amazing? Is it listening? Is it loving? Is it mandatory? Is it unavoidable? Let me see what's coming through. Change, is it grace? Is it, oh, it's unavoidable. That's right, Jimoke. Yep, it's unavoidable. It's good. Yes, right. Change is constant. Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely constant. Yes, in both our professional and our personal lives. It's inevitable. You guys definitely have a growth mindset. I appreciate that. We can accept change, and probably in this profession, right? It's just a mindset. That is correct. Change is a mindset. Absolutely. And some people think change is fun. They enjoy change, right? It's constant, and if it was anything, they may not enjoy it as much. Ghana, change is Ghana. Ghana's changing a lot, right? So it's fast, it's loving, change is life. Absolutely, absolutely. So I will move on. I'm getting some really great ones. Change is permanent. That is right. So let's change together. Let's just change together. Let's commit to that. Let's trust in our PM discipline and our ethics, and let's change together. Let's be proactive in our communications, and let's lead. There's so much for us to do as we change the way things are being done, right? And moving people along with fixed mindsets into that change. So now we've connected. We've learned a little bit about growth mindset, and then so we're going to move on to communication. How what is proactive communication? We're going to look at stakeholder management and leadership, right? And we're going to do some more interactivity. So I do appreciate everyone who is coming along with me on this journey. So what is proactive communication and what is not? So proactive in the dictionary is tending to initiate change rather than to be a reactive event. And oftentimes we try to be in front of the curve of this change. And especially in our projects, we are trying to, as project managers, we want to be in front. We want to enable our teams to be effective. We want to make sure we're communicating with our stakeholders and sound decisions that are going to impact not only our business, but also could be impacting the industry or the world, right? So it's really important for us to continue thinking about proactive communications and what it is, and trusting in the fact that we have this discipline, we have this experience to start off with, and we can react, but we need to probably take a moment in really stressful change situations and not react. We put something very intentional, thoughtful in terms of our communication. So proactive communications also allows you as the project manager to fulfill your leadership role, to pursue the project's business objectives from a position of strength, right? We have a position of strength to honor in these projects. So the team is looking to our direction a lot of times. Our management teams are also looking for that. So our stakeholders are looking to how are we going to react? And we should be poised. Sometimes it's okay to be stressful. Add humor. It's good, you know, if you can. But my point here is that we should trust the discipline, trust our experience, trust our leadership skills that we have developed for proactive communication. And then Puttenbach, right, these processes, it's not in one phase of, in the initiation should we think about any of the change, right? So change and proactive communications are about the whole project life cycle. It doesn't even matter, like the project could have started and then everything has failed. I don't know how many of you started off thinking that your charter was approved and then the whole charter and direction has changed. That's happened to me a few times in my career. Or, you think that the business was aligned with some of the stakeholders, and that's not quite the case, right? And then it changes in initiation, which is great, as opposed to I had an experience years ago. I was working on a project. I can't name the company, and it was the 11th hour going live with the website launch. I had communicated with the stakeholder, all of them, 360, all the different elements of the project status. And what happened was we came to the 11th hour. We were going to turn on the website, the new website for this product launch, and we got an email saying stop. Fortunately, I was able to have sent the go live email. We're going to go live at 2 hours to go ahead of time, so all the stakeholders could react. And that was a blessing in disguise. I didn't understand at the point what the issue was, and I think we had to explain to our team to not be so upset. Everybody was upset. How come? And I think what was really important is I got some insight because of the relationship I built ahead of time with some of the leadership stakeholders. And they explained to me that there were some other business drivers that were impacting the decision to stop this launch. And I explained that to the team. And then I think with understanding the why, they were able to take their time and process it, the change. It was hard for them to not go live because they had spent so much time with readiness and doing the QA in our, in our phase, and we were just ready to be done with the project. So sometimes we just have to pause and think about it. But what brings me to another part of this is, you have to be agile. You have to be resilient. You have to adapt to change with projects. And, I think that what's been interesting when somebody told me that marketers don't need PMPs, well, a lot of the work we do is either a waterfall process and it's agile, and we have to change all the time. So in these days, everything is changing, right? So this concept of agile PM, I think I've always adopted it. So I've always used a hybrid approach to be able to use some of the, the discipline. I talked about that, to be able to have the intersectionality of the traditional PM and the agile PM and put it together and be able to produce results for a lot of my marketing projects. That's been transformational. So it's nice to see that we've evolved as well and adapting change to be inclusive of this hybrid approach. It's not just traditional, it's not just agile PM. You could also have in reality, it's kind of this hybrid approach of completing projects. So in this digital time, I think we have to be open to the various ways of doing projects. And honestly, it depends. It totally depends on your company, how they manage projects and how they track projects and how they manage change and track change. So you have to adapt, and you have to think about, you have to actually understand the expectations of not only your management team, but how many manages their PMO, or if you don't have a PMO, project management office, how you might be setting the bar of what needs to happen when you have change and how you track change. So it's your leadership that is needed in these times to help set that process if it's not there. Proactive communication is respect. That's how I see it. So the more information you give your stakeholder, it is likely that it will minimize miscommunication, it'll limit confusion, you'll stay within budget, hopefully, you won't miss deadlines, and ultimately, as project managers, we want to stay on track, or it's in progress, and that's a great thing, or we want to close the project, right? So keep your stakeholders informed, right? So respect them. So for me, what's been interesting is here are a couple of tips that I can offer you. Keep your communications clear, concise, consistent, and everybody is informed. Your stakeholders will be happy. If there is nothing you remember about this presentation, one of the key messages: be the PM leader that sends clear, concise, consistent communications. Keep your stakeholders informed. Communicate with them. Keep them in the loop. Know your audience. Make sure you're sending clear meeting notes. If you want your meetings, for people to accept your meetings and be able to contribute, always not only send your meeting notes, but you also want to give them status updates, right? And then when you're adding value, there's another piece that is really interesting tip. I've learned it over the years, but it's, when you send a meeting invite, not only do you put objectives and what you hope to achieve, but the outcomes you want. So sometimes I realized that outcome is actually more important for some people, and they study that because each company is different, right, and their expectations. So get to know your stakeholder and what they want. They want to have clear transparency from the beginning of the project, right? And they want to know the good, bad, and the ugly. So when things change, or the ugly news, the stakeholders want to be completely informed. So we come to another pause and an activity that I want to include you in. So, so from proactive communications, I want to hear from the audience, because I know that we have a lot of great thought leaders in the audience. So what strategies and tips have worked for you in stakeholder management? And at this time, for this activity, I'm going to take a couple of people who want to get off mute. You can also put in your chat box, but if you want to get off mute and share, if you have any strategies and tips that have worked for you for stakeholder management, if you could unmute yourself and share with me and the audience, that would be great. You could also put it in the chat box. I'll give you a moment to unchat.
So my name is Kenneth Shigwe. For me, it's been a lot of active listening, being able to listen actively to various stakeholders and be able to even hear the things that they actually are not saying, and also be able to record that and ensure that you are not taking anybody for granted, especially those stakeholders that are quite vulnerable.
Absolutely, Kenneth, that's right. Those quiet stakeholders who indirectly have big influence on your project, if you can listen and understand your audience, That's really important to have it be an active listener. And then actually that's a really great leadership quality too, to be an active listener. Anybody else who'd like to share? Thank you, Kenneth. Don't be shy. Yes, definitely keep your stakeholders informed every step of the way. Anybody else like to share their strategies and tips in the chat box? All right then, on we go. Let's talk about leadership. Let's talk about a very important piece of the talent triangle, which is leadership, right? So just I know a number of you are PTs already, so or you might not know, but the leadership part of the triangle is so important, and I appreciate that now with this new change, right? So technical project management, there's leadership and strategic and business management, which we all need to continue our practice. So I am curious to know, what is your leadership style? So according to the PMBOK guide, there are a number of leadership styles that, are you a servant leader? Are you a transactional leader? Are you a transformational leader? A charismatic leader or interactional leader? I would say for myself, I am an interactional or a transformational leader. If I had any of my different teams I've worked with over the years, they would probably say that I am interactional, but sometimes I'm, transformational. So I'm a mixture of them. But sometimes they would also say I'm charismatic. So depending on my audience, I cater to, sometimes I add more humor, or I'm high energy. Some people say I'm high energy. So, and enthusiastic about our product. So what kind of leadership style do you have? Just put it in the chat box. Leadership. Yes. You demonstrate commitment to serve and put other people first. Use agile approaches. Interactional. That's good. I'm seeing a combination of servant and transactional. Okay. Interactional. That's great. Okay, I'd be interested later on, maybe when COVID is over, to see all the hands, or maybe we might do a survey and find out what types of leadership styles people have and match them. So that's something that's coming up a little bit later. We see there's a servant leader and transformational leader. And it's okay to have all of them, or to have different ones, but interactional, that's fine. It all depends on your personality and how you lead. And it depends on your team, honestly, because you could be so charismatic, but your team might need sometimes somebody who is more servant, right? And so you might kind of toggle between the two, and that's totally okay. So another interactive activity, again, I was hoping that if I was in the room, this would be a little different, right? And so keep us all engaged. Which leadership skills are essential in times of change? If you could put in the chat box, or if you would love to get off mute and share it with us if you have if you, which ones you think are essential in these times of change. So you can either do both, either one, come off mute, or you can put in the chat box. So vision is important. I've seen, communication skills. Most recently, with all the COVID communications that have come out, that has been really important to keep people engaged, right? Because we are getting a lot of miscommunication, WhatsApp messages, no fact checking. So it's really important to listen as, the active listening of what is really going on, reading, fact checking. Is it having a growth mindset? Is that essential leadership skill in times of change? Or is it all of these? Is it having the emotional intelligence to think beyond and think about your team and how they're going to react, but you need to just continue communicating and making hard choices. Sometimes you just have to make the hard choices. So there's been companies, had to make hard choices if they're going to let their employees go because they could not sustain because they're not sustained getting revenue, or they couldn't get revenue in, right? And so a lot of businesses had to close because of these times, so they had to make hard choices. Do you need to motivate and inspire? A number of us are working from home, and sometimes, productivity it's up. We're working more hours, but we have to get motivated and be inspired to continue doing this for 5 days in a row at working more than 8 hours a day sometimes, right? Is mastery. Mastery just makes you, is that essential? So I didn't see many chats coming through, which is fine. So I would say a combination of these skills, and communication being a high one, is important for leading in these types of change. But all these skills are important. So according to a McKinsey study on organizational health, McKinsey said that they did the study. They said to 90% of the people responded that they're going to already put money into leadership development, and because their people mattered. So earlier on in the McKinsey research, they found that good leadership is very critical to their organization's health, and it's also important for the stakeholders' returns, right? So they were going to invest in this part. But when they did this study, what was interesting is they found that the leaders in these organizations with high quality leadership teams typically displayed 4 of these 20 types of behaviors. And here are the 4 types of behaviors. They're very, they operate with strong results orientation. They seek different perspectives, and they solve problems effectively. So those are the 4 behaviors that CEOs are looking for in companies. And you remember my previous slide from the Harvard review, they said that companies are looking for a growth mindset culture. So they're looking for leaders who can lead teams. There's managers, and there's also leaders, right? So they're looking for that. And which I know this, I think I may be bringing too many people into a comfort zone, but you guys said that you're into a growth mindset. So let's go into another activity that will get us maybe have some discussion. So leadership, this is a quote from me. I think you have to trust in your leadership skills. You need to be proactive. You need to speak up. You need to jump in, and you need to lead. And you need to get involved and show up as the best leader that you can be. And so with that, I've been attending programs, and one of them that I've thoroughly enjoyed, facilitated by Mr. Michael Osset, and then as well by Madame Teresa, who is very active in getting us to engage in conversation about leadership. So this book club, we are currently reading The Leader Who Had No Title by Robin Sharma. And Mr. Michael Osset has definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone a few times, but it talks about leadership. And I'd be interested to know if there's anybody on the call who participates in the book club and who would love to share any piece of what we're reading about leadership. And because you guys are so prolific in the book club that I'd love to hear from you and give a quick plug to the book club. You just unmute yourself. There's nobody who wants to. Hello? All right. So,
who are the book club members? I am a member of the club, but I've not been too active, so that's why I'm not able to talk. But I see a lot of them in here on the call as well. It would be great for you to share. It's really critical for all of us as leaders to be able to share what it is that we're getting. It would be very helpful.
Okay, so I'm a member of the book club, and I think over the past, as Gloria is saying, Michael has pushed us out of our comfort zone. In this book, The Leader That Has No Title, it takes you on a journey. It's like a fiction, but it takes you on a journey of the life of a gentleman called Blake and how he was able to move from just being, in existence to changing his life. And as we go through the chapters, you reflect it in your life. So in the first chapter, it just starts as a story, and in the next chapter, there's this very scene that always appeals to me where he goes with his mentor to a cemetery, and there are two holes that are dug. And in one hole, there's a brass plate that has some writing on it in terms of, you die, the 10 regrets. What would you regret when you die that you haven't? And I think that spoke to me as a person a lot in terms of moving out of my comfort zone and doing things as a leader that I might not have done at the beginning of the year. In my work, my work is very fast-paced and I'll say agile. And in many instances, you have to reach out and lead. And I think especially the leader that has no title is able to help me personally to do that. Before that, we read another one that said something begun, and it pushed you out of your comfort zone for you to get to know that you are part of the universe. Excuses Be Gone, that was the name of the book. You are part of the universe, and whatever you do, the energy of the universe supports you to do that. So I think as a leader, sometimes when you tap into these things, it helps you to manifest yourself in your role as a leader. It also helps you to think through what you have been doing, and whether you are a leader because of your title or whether you can break through and be more inspirational. So I think that is what I would want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. Anybody else who would like to share anything else from the book club? Again, very prolific leaders in the book club. I'm learning so much and definitely being pushed out of my comfort zone. So you speak. So I appreciate that. Irene?
Yeah, Gladys. Yeah, I just wanted to add some. I've been missing in the group for like 2 weeks, but I also want to share to the chapter 4, where we talk about leadership, having faith in your abilities, not about the title that is placed on you. So if we have a title that comes naturally, irrespective of the role you're playing it with all. That is where you're managing your brand. If we talk about the chapter 4, where was it chapter 4? We have Anna, who works as a maid servant or somebody who works as a house help, but she takes her job very serious and she creates the best moments out of her work. So there's another quote in the book which shows that if you are a sweeper, you have to sweep so much that when you don't sweep, they will know that you haven't been around. So in every corner that we find ourselves as leaders, we have to perform our tasks and even perform it so that it will be seen when you are even not around. You have some criticisms around, but you also, whilst you listen to the criticisms, you still have to believe in yourself and know that though there are obstacles, you still have the right and the inner drive to still push on and do better things. We talked about the abbreviation, which is the image, where we talk about bringing innovation and mastering whatever you do. You have to be authentic as a leader. You should have the guts and you should also have the ethics. You should know whatever role that we are playing, your code of ethics should be, they should know you for who you are. You should be authentic and be aspire to improve each and every day. So I really took a lot from the reading, but for the past 2 weeks, I've been engaged in other activities, so I haven't been able to join, and I know I'm missing a lot. So it's a place where I get inspired for most of the sessions where we come to discuss stuff. You realize that even if you're facing some challenges in your office, the kind of inspirations we get from the book gives you the drive to still push in and do more to bright in the corner wherever you are. And first of all, you need to be an FMOB, which is the first, the most, and only best, or something like that. So that's the few things I also want to share about a leader with no title. Yeah.
Thank you, Irene. That was so inspiring. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I don't know if we have anybody else who wants to share, but this book club and programming is... Oh,
yeah. Hello. Yeah. Hola. Hola. Hello. Hola is here.
Hi, Ola.
Yeah. Good evening. Yeah. It's nice to see your face, Gladys. Yeah. Thank you for the wonderful presentation so far. Yeah. You see the book we are reading presently. That's The Leader Who Had No Title. It's a wonderful book. In fact, if one is not even taking anything from the book, the acronyms we are learning every week is enough for one to take home. Chapter 6 talks about the deeper your relationship, the stronger your leadership. In fact, which is is the recent chapter we are treating now, and it's so engrossing to the point that one need to follow the relationship you have as a leader. It's talk about, you have to treat yourself as a leader. You have to be strong. Your inner person has to be strong as a leader before you can exhibit your leadership. In fact, the last one we also talk about, that is in chapter 5. We talk about the turbulent times, be the great leaders. So one of the acronym there that really, touch me is SPARK. We talk about when you speak, you have to speak with candor. You have to prioritize. You have to, adversity breed opportunity. And when you respond, it has to be response versus react. And you must give kudos to everyone. So, lo and behold, when you look at what we have learned so far in this book, you will see that we still have many things to learn as a leader. And honestly, going through this book, you'll see that we don't need any title to really be a leader. All you just have to be exhibited, and you will see that the moment you show that you are a leader, every other thing will fall in place. So I encourage every of our members to be part of the club. It's going to benefit for us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That was great. And I get so much joy for our in. So that's the middle of my day. I'm on Pacific Standard Time when you guys are So I'm multitasking most of the time. And so, but I've enjoyed calling in for the last, I believe, 4 or 5 weeks now. It's been wonderful and definitely inspiring. So I got a message saying, how do I get involved? Because it says get involved and develop your leadership skills. So if you could go off mute, Jamoke, how do they get involved? They just have to be part of the chapter, and do they send you a message?
Okay.
How do they get?
All right, thank you. The book club is headed by Mr. Michael Osei, and it is for PMI Ghana chapter members with valid subscription. So I've also shared his number on the chat section. So if you are a member, and because it's one of the in fact, it's one of PDP's babies. So, and it's to give value to members for paying to become members. One of the things we give back to members. So if you're a member in good standing, please get in touch with Mr. Michael Osei on 0200290219. You can get the number from the chat section, or you get in touch with me and I will share his number with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So as we get more involved and join the book club, there are definitely other things that you can get from the chapter and the benefits of the chapter. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as we learn about collaborate. So we've gone through connect, we've gone through communicate, and now we're going to learn about the team, and we're going to get more involved. So as we collaborate, here's the team. So you have a team. My team, I wish my team looked like this, but they don't always look like this. But we have a very diverse and inclusive team. And as I said, I'm a marketer, and sometimes I work with creative people, a project manager, and I need to understand the team. So how often are you getting to know your team? To be proactive in your communications, it is so critical that you are integrated, meshed with your team. You understand your team. You understand their expectations. You know, you're more a direct team, but then also your stakeholders. So it's important to get to know your team. You need to develop them. So Sarah, Amelia, and Samuel. So we need to know them. Beyond, you know, just the meetings. Have you checked in on them beyond the formal one-on-one, especially in these unprecedented times? Have you asked, how's it going? Have you checked in, not on the project, but on them? Have you been genuine? Have you been authentic? And some of this is really important because as you've been building the confidence to your team at all stages of the life cycle of a project, when things go wrong, it's your team that's going to step in and help each other and help the project get to its final destination and be successful. So it is really important to know what's going on with the team. So for instance, Samuel may have been right there in the heart of the earthquake because he's never experienced that before. And have you checked in with him? Maybe his family is just terrified. Maybe there's something going on and their project is their deadline. But hopefully you've taught Samuel to check in and give you status. But you had to build that confidence in him and the trust that he could share that, you know what, I am not able to come in today. Nobody's going in, but he couldn't make a call, a virtual call, and do maybe a deliverable because he had a family commitment because of the earthquake that happened a couple of days ago, or just in general, it could have been COVID or somebody sick in the family. So you need to get to know Sarah as well. Maybe she has some conflict at home or at work or even with coworkers. So there are things that as project managers, as we're leading these projects, if we get to understand our team and uplift our team, that helps us move on to be successful in our projects. So I'm going to move to something, a tool. There's something that I've recently become more aware of. I took a class. Actually, I was doing PDUs, and I came across 2 webinars with peers about character strengths, and I was fascinated about it. And I believe I manage my team to their characters. I get to know them, right, as I talk about this. And I just didn't have the formal language. You know, I talk about discipline and the language, the PM language. I didn't have the language necessarily to articulate what character strengths were, but I was managing my teams with it. So character strengths are, according to the VIA Institute on Character, they say that everybody has about 24 character strengths, and they have it in different degrees. And so we all have different kind of, as we have this, that we can manage our teams like that. So they said that people who use the strengths are a lot more, 18 times more likely to flourish in their leadership. So if you understand your own personal strengths and then also your team strengths, you could advance in terms of being more cohesive when things go awry, when things are, you know, when there's so much change, right? Or when you're going through the life cycle of the project. So there's a free survey. I set it up for the Ghana chapter because I took the social intelligence for project managers. I'm a facilitator. I graduated from the class, but I also took the facilitator class, and I was able to create a survey just specifically for the Ghana chapter. So if you go take the survey, we'll put the link into the chat box, and then we can also send it. If you take the survey, we can also manage our chapter and understand what are the character strengths on our team as the PMI Ghana chapter, and figure out that, and we can talk about it later on in another conversation, either in person or another forum. So go to the VIA, here's the link. I have it set as proactive communications, PMI Ghana.pro. viasurvey.org, and take your character strength. Find out what are your top 10. You'll get all 24. We all have 24, but they rank order. So it'll be interesting to see where you rank, and then we can maybe talk about it in another week or two in another forum or so. I'd love to hear from you about what your character strengths are and if they surprised you at all. So we'll take a pause here, and we've come to get involved. I talked about getting involved and what's important here. Something that we maybe take for granted or we don't. Maybe you're really networked with the chapter, but there are 540 members in the chapter with certification, right? And so we have members, and we're growing, right? So in the last year, there was 21% increase of membership, and that's amazing. So I think it's important to not only just give back, but also grow your PM skills. Use the network within the PM Ghana chapter and grow your network. Continue to collaborate, get involved, build your proactive communication and leadership skills, and through this programming, it's just amazing. So we talked about book club, we talked about there are monthly speakers. I'm one of the monthly speakers. There's Toastmasters, that just happened. Amazing. The Toastmaster little crew that came and blew our minds last week. Just did an amazing job. So if there's anybody from Toastmasters who wants to give a plug to their Toastmaster group and get us to join, please say something. Otherwise, there are more programming too that are being offered by the chapter. So I'm just thrilled. Is there anybody from Toastmasters on the call? Okay. So I've come to an end of the presentation. So we've
Hello,
connected.
Gladys.
Yes.
This is Gloria.
Hi, Gloria.
I'm from the Toastmasters. And in fact, this is something really new that we have all seen, but it's so exciting. And I didn't know that there's something like this. This is a place that leadership is taught, communication skills are taught. You're getting the platform to develop yourself, to become a good leader, have command of the English language. We got it demonstrated for us. The club was inaugurated just last week. And it's amazing what we witnessed.